Being recorded.
Whenever
Looks like he just joined here.
You did. Hey, Blane Howard, how are you?
Doing well. You guys want me landscape?
Yeah, that's fine. You're fine. We can see you. I mean,
Doesn't matter to me. I can go either way.
whatever you're more comfortable with. Love your. John has a Chiefs jersey on. John, you want to show him?
Christmas present. I got a Mahomes jersey. I figured I'd wear it, make you
Awesome.
feel a little bit more comfortable.
There you go.
That was my wife got me one, gosh, a couple of years ago. That was a big Christmas present of mine. This was my present from her this year. So
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
I was
For a
excited.
good
Yeah.
Chiefs jacket.
I think it's Mitchell and Ness. They do a lot of the classic stuff, but this is like the Marty Schottenheimer era. Like
Love Marty. He was awesome. My brother knows him really well. He knows
Really?
Marty. He does. And we're friends with the I'm friends with the trainer. So was my brother, Rick Burkholder. And Rick was the trainer with Philadelphia with Andy. And my brother knows Andy really well.
Right.
So if you want to go to Vegas, let's go, brother.
Man, I would love to. I thought I was going to play that tailgate, which I was so excited to do. It was like it was supposed to be like a Travis Kelce fan experience thing where some fan would win like a meet and greet with him and autograph and stuff, and the company went bankrupt. But I've already got something else booked that weekend. I'm going to do like a big fairs and festivals conference that weekend. So gotta do some business, unfortunately. But I think I'll make it to a playoff game at Arrowhead. So I'm excited for that.
We got to stay in touch. I'll meet you down there. How's
Sounds
that?
great, man. Sounds great.
So tell us about yourself and your music and everything you're doing.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Southwest Arkansas, a little town called Hot Springs, just a little bit southwest of Little Rock. You know, grew up singing in the choir there, singing in church, all that stuff. Played football, played basketball, baseball, ran track, all the sports. Had some Division II football offers, had some Division I track offers, but music was always my first love. That's what I always wanted to do. So I got introduced to the music program at Belmont University here in Nashville, and that's what, made me move to Nashville and pursue country music. So moved here when I was 18 to get a music degree, and got a music degree there. As soon as I graduated, started booking shows and writing songs and trying to make fans out there as best I could.
Well, you're really, really taking off, and you have that great song that you dedicated to your wife. That's amazing.
Yeah, Promise to Love Her. Yeah, I wrote that as a wedding present for her. It wasn't supposed to be anything more than that, and it just completely took off, man. Kind of went viral on me a little bit, and now it's got over 130 million streams. The music video debuted on CMT, and spent 17 weeks on the CMT Music 12-pack countdown, including a week at #1. So it's been an awesome ride with that song for sure.
Well, that's amazing. And I read that you grabbed your little guitar at 3 years old. You must have known me, because at that time I did the same thing. I was a Beatles fan, and you do have a rock influence, right? You like rock and roll?
A little bit, yeah. So I grew up listening to a little bit of everything. Obviously, there's some country influence there. My mom's side of the family always had country going, and Johnny Cash and Glenn Campbell are from Arkansas, not far from where I grew up. So there's a big influence there. But my dad always had the rock station going. He had Prince and Elton John and Led Zeppelin and Van Halen and all that stuff going too. So there's a lot of those influences mixed in. That's why a lot of my stuff kind of sounds, kind of Bob Seger. It's just that country rock kind of mixed all into one.
Right. I'm a Beatles fan. You didn't mention them though. They're right. They got to be right there with them, right?
I like the Beatles. It wasn't something that I like adamantly grew up with though. Like my parents or my dad wasn't like a huge Beatles fan or a huge, a lot of people like to say Beatles or Rolling Stones. Like it was just kind of like whatever was on the radio is what we kind of listened to. So we kind of enjoyed all of it.
And I know Neil saying that Paul McCartney, he was like, "We're not worthy,"
Right.
Right. But and by the way, we know each other from Neil Spielberg, and I met him on the field a couple of years ago at Yankee Stadium. And I think it was his son-in-law made a pitching machine, and some of the major league teams were thinking about buying it.
Right.
Including the Diamondbacks. And he told me all about you, and I was like, yes, we definitely would love him on this show.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. Yeah. I'm a sports guy. I mean, I'm a Chiefs guy, but I love all sports. I mean, like I said, I played them all. I watch them all. My family's a big golf family too, so I'll talk about any of it.
Well, that's great. So what do you think about our Chiefs? What do you think we're going to do?
I mean, the Seahawks game last week made me feel a little bit better going into these last couple of games. I was a little nervous, after giving up that 27-point lead to the Broncos. We kind of took our foot off the gas, let them back in it. And then the Texans game, we struggled. This team keeps kind of shooting themselves in the foot. We had 9 straight games with a turnover, which is something that's never been done by any Andy Reid team. So I think they've got to get that under control. But, they get that under control. We're obviously the best offense in the league. So if we get that under control, we can score more points than anybody, just have the defense get a couple of stops. I think the sky's the limit. But at the same time, you get in the playoffs and you start turning the ball over and making mistakes like that, that's what sends you home early too. So it's got me nervous a little bit, but I'm excited for the playoffs.
Yeah. You know what it is? It seems to me, and we end up losing Kareem Hunt. It was unfortunate what happened. But I said this when they first got together, these two are going to be in the Hall of Fame someday if they stick together. And it didn't work out that way, but we really haven't had a super great running back, and he never fumbles. The guy only ever fumbled one time in his life, and that was the first play from scrimmage.
Yeah, against the Patriots that very first year.
Yeah, and he did not fumble this whole time at Toledo.
Yeah.
In the 4 years he was there.
And didn't fumble again for the Chiefs. I don't know if he's fumbled for the Browns either.
No, I don't think he has. And he's just, I ended up becoming friends with his father, weirdly enough, on Facebook.
Really?
Yeah, I did. And I didn't say, I just thought that people were picking up. I mean, the girl said some really nasty things to him.
Yeah.
Including using some really language you don't use. And all of a sudden that was overlooked, and he was kind of picked on. And his father liked the fact that I kind of pointed that out. And he became friends with me. He's a really good guy.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, why the team had to let him go, I think they probably would have just suspended him and fined him. It was the fact that they asked him about it at the time.
Right.
And he kind of semi-denial or whatever it was. And then
Right.
I think that's kind of what, it's kind of like you didn't quite know what was there. Like we didn't quite know what the whole Tyreek Hill situation was in the offseason that one season. And then turns out it was nothing at the time. But, so many things are just kind of happening, underneath. And then you got to kind of make a decision so quick on that stuff nowadays.
Right. Yeah, right. And they were under the gun. I mean, there was pressure on them from the media and the whole thing. And
and it was right before the NFL draft too. So you're thinking, man, do we need to make a decision now to try and replace him through the draft too? Like that was a tough decision too. So
right. And I'm pretty good with like judging talent. And the minute we got Clyde Lahair from LSU, is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
I was not a big fan. I was just like, this guy, he's not a good replacement.
Well, it's hard to replace Kareem Hunt too. Like
right.
he was the NFL's leading rusher, and he was so good out of the backfield too. But Clyde showed signs of the thing that surprised me. I didn't think Clyde was as good as he was until I watched him in that national championship, and he seemed to not only be able to run the ball well, but he caught the ball well out of the backfield, and he hasn't really shown strong signs of either in the NFL. He has flashes. Right. He has flashes of brilliance, and then he'll kind of disappear for a game or two. Whereas Pacheco is just like hit the ground running, full speed, running with power and anger.
I'm from Jersey. That's
man. 7th round pick, is hungry. I mean, he is really showing that he's earned that spot.
It seems to me that the Chiefs, they don't have a deep threat anymore, and I can't believe Hill left us. Every time he catches a ball, my man gets sick. But I mean, they don't have a deep threat, but Mahomes is so great. By the way, did you see the pass he had when he literally, it looked like it was a volleyball, and he just punched it over? He's getting tackled, and he just with his fist, and the ball gets to the receiver. And I think it was Kenny or whatever. He just took off down the field and ran like 60 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah,
and
crazy play.
Yeah, it's Mahomes. He can make the water boy catch 5 touchdowns a game. I mean, he just could.
I think that's why he's, clear. I think obviously I'm biased a little bit, but that's why I think he's the clear-cut MVP this year. Everyone always said Mahomes. Well, it's easy to do that with all those weapons. He's got Tyreek Hill, he's got Travis Kelce, he's got all these great receivers and weapons. Well, they took that away and brought him a whole new receiving core, and he's going to throw for 5,000 yards in 16 games again and 40 touchdowns. And he's putting up insane numbers with a whole new receiving core. only person that's returning is Travis Kelce. And
Right.
Kelsey's great, but when they double him every play, you've got to make other guys work. And he's just all day, every day.
Everybody good. And you know what? He's got Brady in him, because there was time, I defended Brady for a long time because people were jealous of him. And I knew, and John hates him, by the way. but no, like, and they would come to me and go, well, he's had a lot of players. I go, he's been here 20 years and people have come and gone and he still wins. And it's the same thing with Mahomes. He's got that. You know what? For what it's worth, Alex Smith had these guys. He had Hill, he had Kelce, and they never did half of what Mahomes has done in the short time he's been there.
Yeah. And Alex Smith if he was healthy, he'd probably still be a starter in the NFL today if he hadn't had his leg injury. He's a quality quarterback. There's a lot of teams in the NFL that would take a healthy Alex Smith today.
Right.
And yeah, he put up, a 4,500 yard season. That was his best season ever, though. And that just seems his best season ever is kind of an average Mahomes season. That shows you like how good Mahomes is.
Right.
Absolutely. As a Jets fan, I would take Alex Smith right now. Prime Alex Smith. I mean, it's I totally agree with you. I think Mahomes is the MVP this year as well. I mean, I got this jersey because, as a Jets fan, I have every jersey since Pennington, and it just the list keeps going. It's tough to watch. So, having this guy that you can watch, and, you see some quarterbacks, especially like my Jets quarterbacks, and you're like, why did he make that play? Why didn't he make this play? You never say that about Mahomes. It's like music to your eyes almost to watch him play football.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, it's so often when he does make what you could call a mistake, like you can see that like one little bitty thing changes and that's a touchdown or a 40-yard gain or whatever. Like he sees things that other people don't see. Sometimes taking that chance results in an interception, but a lot more often than that, it's going to result in a huge gain.
Yeah, I'll take that hit because he's not like throwing interceptions in big moments, or he's a human being. So he's going to throw an interception from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
But the other stuff he brings far outshadows that. So
absolutely.
I'll take that. I love him. And
I mean, his first season, his first MVP season, we had the worst defense in the NFL. And we were a D Ford offsides penalty from being in the Super Bowl.
Right.
That's how good he was that year.
Well, no, how about this? John will love this. The fact that on the play before that, we actually sacked Brady and they threw that unnecessary roughness in the quarterback.
Yeah, they called it hands to the face or something when his own lineman hit him in the face. Yeah.
It's the Brady effect, he gets protection. I mean,
hey,
the league changed when he went down that one time, right? And that's how it is.
That's true, but you know what? Mahomes occasionally gets those calls now, so I'm not going to complain too much.
Hey, we got to keep him healthy. Everybody loves watching him.
Absolutely.
Okay with that.
Right. What do you think of the Bills? You think the Bills, they're going to give us the most trouble, I think.
Man, if the Bills are healthy, if Josh Allen is healthy, like if you told me you couldn't have Mahomes go get another quarterback in the league, I'd take Josh Allen every single time. Like, I just think he has that ability. Do I think he's Patrick Mahomes? No. Do I think he's the closest to Patrick Mahomes that you have in the NFL right now? Yes. I think Josh Allen has the ability every single season to go out and throw for 4,500 yards and run for 500 and have 40 total touchdowns, and the ability to take over a game. I mean, that game last year in the divisional round against Mahomes, like, he had that game won. What more do you want from your quarterback with less than a minute to go? He goes 75 yards and scores with 13 seconds left in the game. I mean, that game is – the Bills are going to the Super Bowl 99 times out of 100 when that happens. But Patrick Mahomes, that 13 seconds to go get in field goal range.
Yeah, he was the one time. And I told you this on the phone, I think. My friend, I was sitting with a friend who's a Bills fan, and on the other side was a Chiefs fan with his girlfriend. And I said the night before on my show, I go, it's a 1.5 spread. Give the Bills the 1.5. And at the end of the game, the Chiefs fans looking at me going, you promised. I'm going, don't worry. And I looked at my friend, and he's out there going, want a drink? Do you want to? He's like, fine, everybody drinks. He thought they had won. And I look up at the TV and I go, no. I go, I see it now. You lose. They have 3 timeouts because they're going to kick the ball in the end zone which they shouldn't have. They should have kicked it on 2 and made the guy run.
Yeah.
That would have, yeah. And I go, 3 passes. This is like Dan Fouts. When I was a kid, I see Dan. I'm like, third pass, touchdown. 1, 2, 3, touchdown. They lose. And everybody was stunned. And the chief guy was going nuts. He goes, I don't believe that just happened. They go,
Man, I was lucky enough to be at that game and in the airport the next day flying back to Nashville. Half the flight was Chiefs fans, half the flight was Bills fans. And I've never seen a group of like fans that just had this big game like come together in happiness for how great the game was, how great the 2 quarterbacks' performances were. And Chiefs fans going, man, if y'all had won that game, we knew y'all were going to the Super Bowl. Just like Bills fans were saying at us, which we should have. We blew that game against the Bengals, but it was just such a good game. And everybody was sitting there going, man, watching those 2 quarterbacks in that type of atmosphere was just incredible.
That could have been a Super Bowl and probably should have been a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think they were the 2 best teams in the league last year for
sure.
sure.
How the Bengals keep snubbing their way in is unbelievable.
I just don't know if we match up well against them, man. I think we just don't match up well against the Bengals. There's certain teams that you don't match up well against, and it just seems to be, I mean, they got weapons all over.
We had to beat both times. The first time we just should have kicked a field goal in halftime. There was only 1 second left on the clock instead of trying to force it in. We would have won. It wouldn't have won overtime. And then just a couple of weeks ago, we were going for the game icing touchdown. We already had the lead, and then Kelsey fumbled. It happens.
Yeah.
But I still think if we play them long enough, we're going to take them out.
I mean, I like our chances against anybody, especially all we really need most of the time is for the defense to make a couple of stops. And that's one thing we did. They only punted that Bengals game. We punted once, they punted once. You make the Bengals punt twice in that game's over.
Right.
So it's as simple as that sometimes.
I mean, the same thing with the Colts. We had them beat most of the game, and then we gave it away at the end.
Well, that game is just like, what got the Broncos back in the game. We turned the ball over a bunch. You throw 2 interceptions or you fumble the ball twice. And the Texans, I mean, we had 500 yards of total offense. They had 220. How's that game go to overtime other than fumbles and interceptions? It's just turnovers will kill you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and John asked me before you came on, he was like, what do you think about the Bills? And I'm just like, honestly, I still think that Josh Allen in that big moment gets too scared. You're right. He's not Mahomes. I give him a B grade, not an A grade. And I got a lot of Bills fans that want to kick my tail for saying that.
I wouldn't give him a B. If Mahomes is like the pinnacle, if Mahomes is 100, I'd give Josh Allen like a 95. I still think he's incredible.
You want to give him like an A minus then?
Yeah, I'd give him an A minus for sure. And win a couple playoff games and get to a Super Bowl, I'll give you up to like 97, 98. But you got to do things on the resume. You got to win those big games in the playoffs to get to that top tier.
Right. Of course, I'd rather have the game in Kansas City.
Well, me too. I'm really cheering for the Bengals this week. The Bengals beat the Bills. We got the Broncos with all their Broncos have all their problems with coach and all the coaches being fired and stuff. And then the Raiders are benching Carr for the rest of the season. So he's not going to play the final week of the season. They're going to play.
He's not.
Yeah. So,
I did not know that.
Yeah. They're playing Jarrett Stidham. So, if the Bengals win this week, we've got a really good shot of being the 1 seed. And I'd much rather have those games in Kansas City than Buffalo.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Right, of course. But my friend said something that I totally forgot about. If the Bengals do beat the Bills, they beat us both. So if they finish in the tie, they're going to be the ones.
Well, right now the Chiefs have 1 less loss. So if the Bengals win and the Chiefs happen to lose, we would drop to the 3 seed. That's the thing. They have 4 losses. We have 3. So we still have the tiebreaker over them if we can beat Denver and Las Vegas, which we should. But divisional games, you never know.
Right. No, you don't. But and now that I'm feeling a lot better now that I realized that, or you told me that Carr's not playing. That's awesome.
Yeah. I heard he's stepping away from the team completely as to take away any distraction.
Yeah, he's like completely stepping away, not even going to sit on the bench. Like, God forbid, Jarrett Stidham gets hurt. They're not even going to put Carr in as the backup. They're getting somebody off the practice squad.
Wow. I didn't even hear that. John, did you know that?
I did. Yeah, that's what I heard. I mean, he's completely stepping away from the team. And it's crazy because he just signed that big contract 3-year deal at the start of the year. Like, he signed it in April this year. So wonder what they're
mean,
going to do. I mean, as a Jets fan, I'll take him, but
I think there's a lot of teams out there that would take him, but guys like Devontae Adams that just left to go play with him, and you go from the Packers where you're winning the NFC, or being the 1 seed in the NFC the last 3 years to now you're not making the playoffs. Like, he's got to feel bad that the guy he went to play with is stepping away. I mean, you're hoping that you can convince him to come back, but I think, honestly, I think the Raiders are probably a playoff team if they keep their interim coach from last year for this year. I think they probably now. Do I think they're an 11 or 12 win team?
No, beat us the first time they played us.
Yeah.
They were right on the goal line. I mean, they could have beat us.
Oh yeah,
beat them by 1 point, right? Something like that.
Yeah, but that was the game with, like, we had the strip sack that they called
right,
and a few other calls that were questionable, where we should have had the ball at like the 15. Instead, they went down and scored. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder if Devontae Adams is not a benefit as much as he could have been with that team. I mean, Josh Jacobs has had a monster year. He's been so incredible.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, he's leading that team. And, if you give him more of the focus and just try to let Carr just not turn the ball over and, make passes when they're needed. And, I know Devontae Adams is a focal point. So, maybe forcing the ball to be passed, especially with Waller down most of the year. I mean, that's another target that would draw extra defenders off of Adams. I wonder if they would have just focused on Jacobs more if Derek Carr doesn't have this whole issue at this point,
Right. I mean, it's definitely an interesting thought because Renfro's a great slot receiver too. And I mean, I think Jacobs is still leading the league in rushing. Like, it's not like he's the best running back in the league this year as far as like rushing yards. So to have that and Devontae Adams and you are 6 and 8 is a little strange. And Devontae hasn't had a bad year. I mean, I think he's top 5 in yards. I mean, he's still had a good year, but you're right. Maybe you don't force a few plays to Devontae and you just run the ball a little bit more. Then maybe they're 8 and 6 instead of 6 and 8.
Right. Now, what other sports do you like? You said you played other sports.
Oh man, I grew up playing everything. I played baseball, basketball, ran track. My family's a big golf family. My dad's actually a PGA professional at our country club, and is on the. He just got elected to the PGA board of directors a couple of years ago, so he gets to go. He was at the PGA Championship back in May as a starter. He gets to go to the Ryder Cup in September of 2023. So, we're into every sport possible. Like, I'm a big Preds fan and hockey as well. Love going to Preds games here in Nashville with my buddies. So, just about any sport, I'll watch it.
I'm actually a Bruin fan in hockey, and I was supposed to go last night. Weirdly enough, I met this guy, and he was going to take me. He's friends with like Martin Brodeur and all those other people from the old Devils teams. And it turned out his relatives came in, so they went. But I'm on the phone with him, and he goes, "You have to meet Sydney." I go, "Sydney?" And he goes, "Yeah, Crosby." I'm like, "Oh, yeah. We can do that." And I was actually going to go this weekend, but he had like a personal issue. So he was going to come back to this New York area. But he did end up not coming back because he was talking to Ken Danico, who used to play with the Devils, and now he's one of their announcers. And they're going to come in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to go have dinner with Cross, I believe.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. And I'm not as big as my brother, mind you, but I do okay. My brother's the big star. But yeah, and the guy was really cool. I didn't even know him. I just met him at Costco. And we just started talking. And like, he just gave it to me. He's like, "Hey, here's my number." I always hang out. I go, "Bring those guys on. I'll talk to Brodeur, sure." You know what I'm saying? So, but okay, so what about baseball? Your baseball?
Yeah, I love baseball. My teams, again, I'm from Arkansas. We don't have professional sports teams. So I kind of, sometimes you migrate to what's close. A lot of people in Arkansas for football are Cowboys fans. But I started watching the Chiefs with my grandfather, who lives just south of Kansas City, when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So that was my first love. But for basketball, I'm a Texas Rangers fan, or baseball, excuse me, Texas Rangers fan.
Yeah, I'm a Met fan. You stole the ground from us.
We did, and we just got Eovaldi the other day too.
Right, the ex-Yankee, ex-Red Sox, right?
Yeah, so that'll help our rotation a little bit too. But they're finally starting to like go after some players the past couple of years, which I'm happy to see. But yeah, the Rangers, you know, I started going to games with my uncle who lives in Dallas when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. Those were the Ivan Rodriguez and Juan Gonzalez days when they were actually really good. And, you know, Juan Gonzalez always, you know, the Yankees would beat him in the playoffs, but Juan Gonzalez would bat like 600 against them. He was the Yankee killer.
You don't know how much I hate the Yankees, but every time Texas lost, I wanted to strangle them.
Oh,
they always lost. The Yankees always beat them. And John's a Yankee fan, so he's sitting there smiling.
I was okay with that. Listen, I'm a Jets fan, so you got to balance it out somewhere.
Hey,
Some winning.
exactly,
I can't just be
man.
miserable my whole life, right? So
everything does this, man. The Chiefs were 2-14 10 years ago, you know, and now they're, you know, 11-3 this year. So just everything's cyclical, man. But yeah, I've been a Rangers fan my whole life. That's kind of who I've always watched. And yeah, a lot of my friends in Arkansas are Cardinals fans. So watching the Cardinals do well and my team, you know, struggle for a long time was definitely rough. But, you know, they're my team and I'm sticking with them.
I'll tell you what, the Cardinals are a pain in the Mets side. Because if it wasn't for the fact, like even in the 80s when the Mets were really the best team, they only made the playoffs 2 of those times because there was no wild card. And the Cardinals were in the same division and they just beat them out of it. You know, and they're the most successful team without a big payroll. They have done it the old-fashioned way, and they have just done it right. They're the second winningest World Series team next to the Yankees.
Yeah.
They won the second most. So, and they know how to do it, and they don't have a whole lot of money. But they can they're a pain in the neck to every other team, and every other team.
Oh, yeah. Well, and St. Louis is a baseball town for sure, man. You go through there, that city bleeds the Cardinals, man.
That's right.
It is a big time baseball city. Great ballpark to see a game too.
Right. What about basketball? You got a team?
Basketball, Dallas Mavs. I started watching them with my uncle as well. Kansas City doesn't have a basketball team, so I gravitated towards the Mavs and was always a big Dirk fan. So watching them when I was graduating high school, watching them lose to the Heat in the finals was heartbreaking. But when Dirk took over and beat LeBron and D Wade and Chris Bosh that first year in the finals, man, that was like sweet revenge for me. So that was awesome.
That was probably my favorite. As a New Jersey Nets fan, I watched, you know, Jason Kidd growing up and Vince Carter. So when Jason Kidd got that trophy with Dirk, I mean, that was everything for me too, you know. I mean, I was rooting for them just like they were my team at that point.
Yeah, so, man.
I'd love to see him do it again as coach.
I hope so too. I was so happy to get Kidd at the time. And man, he really turned himself into a great 3-point shooter late in his career. He realized I don't have the speed. Yeah, I don't have the speed like I did when I was in my 20s. So, but I can still dish the rock, man. He could still dish that thing out. So, you know, he'd spot up, shoot the threes and dish it out. And you had guys like Jason Terry in the wings, and then Tyson Chandler in the post, man, was just defensive player of the year, man. He was so good.
Was the great point guard and the center because you can never beat Shaq. You can never get past him all those years. Yeah. And then finally you got one, a big center, and then you got the guard to finish it, Jason.
Yeah.
You know, I met Jason at Cal. He was in our hotel at UCLA because my brother's a trainer for the Bruins.
Right.
And they walk in, and I look at my brother, go, "Is California here?" He goes, "No." I go, "There's the coach." And I ended up like talking to the girl at the desk back then, and I asked her what room he was in. I go, "My brother's a trainer at UCLA. It's okay." You know, and she told me. So I knocked on the door. I got guts. I knocked on the door, and Lamont Murray answered the door, and they ended up with the Nets together years later. They were roommates. And I go, "Is Jason here? I want to see him." And he walked me in. I sat on the bed, and Jason walked in. We were hanging out talking. And my friend who was downstairs goes, "What did you do that for?" And I go, "He's going to be great someday. That's why." And my friend went, "Okay, I'll buy that." And sure as heck, that is a true story.
Yeah, and he ended up being really great.
Yes. Oh boy, did he ever! And it's funny thing. I met Dirk, and I'll tell you why. Well, first of all, Don Nelson, my brother talked him into taking the first coaching job. My brother was his trainer with the Milwaukee Bucks. He did not want the job. Wow. My brother and him were friends, and then Nelly kind of turned on my brother, which was not good, but for no reason too. But he got him the job, and when Nelly went down there, he picked Dirk because he didn't want the Celtics to pick him because he knew Boston was going to pick him.
Oh yeah.
And you guys I believe you had Tracy Murray on your team at the time. And Trace went to UCLA. That was Lamont's cousin. And he got me passes when Dallas came in. And I got in the back and met Dirk.
Wow.
Which was, yeah, I met them all, man. I met Jordan. I met Cole. And the reason was because we had a guy named Jack Haley who played with the Nets 2 different stints in his career. And then he played on all the great teams that we played. The Lakers with Magic, met him. The Bulls with Michael the year they won the 72 games. And then with who was it? Who did Jack go to? San Antonio. So I got to meet David Robinson and those guys.
Wow.
Eventually Tim Duncan too. So what happened is Jack became a net in the beginning of his career. So I decided to go to a game. He had just gone out of UCLA, and Reggie Miller was his roommate and his best man when they got married. And I go to the game, and Jack's down there shooting, and back then you can get as close as, you know. And I walked up, I go, Jack, spot. And he's looking around, go, hey, Speed, how's it going? Come on out here. So he walks me out there, and the players are shooting around, and he goes, how's your brother? Blah, blah, blah. So we're talking for a while, and he goes, you want my phone number? I went, or he goes, no, you want my autograph? I go, no, I want your phone number. So he gave me his phone number, and I kid you not, for the better part of 15 years, he got me passes every single night.
Wow.
I was in the locker room with the whole league. One night they had a dinner, and he go, you going to the dinner, Bob? I go, oh, I'm not a player. They're like, oh, you're Mr. Meadowlands. Come down. You're allowed to go. And I'm like, oh boy. and then, but when he was on the Bulls, he was on the 72 win team.
Is that 96, 97?
96,
Yeah.
95-6, yeah. And he came in, and I would always bring a lot of friends with me. And we went to the hotel where the Bulls were, and they were roping off the girls because they were everywhere. And Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman come in. And Jack was Rodman's best friend. They would call him Rodman's babysitter. Yeah, right. So Jack saw me past behind the ropes, and he goes, come on, Bob. And he takes me upstairs, and he's like, and the girl's like, go upstairs, Mike's up there, you know, the whole thing. And Jack looks at me and goes, game's tomorrow night, Bob. You need an extra ticket? I went for my friend. And he went, no, for you. And I go, okay, for me. So you know, I gave my ticket to my friend. But the next night, when the game started, I'm down underneath the basket, and Jack comes out first because he always came out to shoot around. And I go, Jack? He goes, Bobby, come out here. I go, guard. He went, don't worry about the guard. Come out. And Jack is 6'11". He puts his arm around me, and I'm looking up. He goes, what do you need, Bobby? I go, well, I got 9 friends here, and they all want Jordan's autograph. And he looked at me and went, your family, get it. All 9 people got Jordan's autograph.
Wow.
And I'm standing there with the program with all the autographs, and I got it up. I'm thinking, I'm looking at the crowd, it's so crowded, and I'm like, man, these people would kill me if they knew what I had in my hand.
Oh yeah.
And they would take it. And then I'm standing there and watch Jordan comes out with Pippen, and they're running around me doing dunk drills. And I'm standing there with the program. I go, this is great. And they're going, dish. And I'm like, this is really cool. You know what I'm saying? And I was in the hotel when Michael went to gamble that night, like I said, the famous night. Mm-hmm. I was there. I saw it all. And I got to tell you, I met somebody that you would probably look up to, Kenny Rogers.
Oh, yeah.
We're best friends. They were best friends. My brother would go to his picnics on his ranch in Atlanta. In Georgia. But yeah, I got to meet him and see him, and you know, he even knew about my brother's sickness. I'm just like, he's sick? I didn't even know. Like, really?
Wow.
I'll give him a call. You know? But no, he because my brother had like an operation where he had to take, it was like a skin thing where it had to come off, you know. But he's fine. Listen, you grew up loving Alan Jackson, right?
Yeah, I loved Alan Jackson. You know, I liked Garth Brooks and George Strait and all that stuff too, but I was an Alan Jackson fan when I was a little kid.
Have you ever met him?
I have not.
I was going to say, because my brother wants to meet him, because my brother has the same sickness he does now because of the shots. Wow. He cannot walk. And he wanted to raise awareness to it. Is there any way you can get to him and let him know about this?
I wish. I would. You know, I would have met him myself and be hanging out with him as often as I could if I knew him. Unfortunately, he's kind of getting to the point where he's kind of semi-retiring. So I don't. Yeah.
In December, he actually did a show in California. And my brother was trying to get contacts that he knew and couldn't do it. And I asked Neil, and Neil didn't talk to him that much anymore, so he couldn't do it.
Yeah,
So,
Neil works for a different label at the time.
Right.
So I mean
Right.
he probably knew someone that knew him, but he didn't work directly with him like he worked with Randy Travis and Dwight Yoakam and stuff like that. So
and I heard you opened up for some really big people, right?
yeah, I've been lucky to open for some really big people. Blake Shelton was really cool. I got to do that right after season 1 of The Voice. So like, you know, I'm walking out as the opener thinking, oh, there's, you know, the venue holds 10,000. There'll be about, you know, 1,500, 2,000 people here. They'll all come in later for Blake. And there's already they're slam packed with people. It's just like, you couldn't see the ground anywhere. There were, if the venue held 10,000, there were probably 12,000 there that night. It was just completely slam packed. I've never seen a crowd like that in my life. People wearing The Voice shirts and Team Blake and all that stuff. He had a meet and greet line that was probably half a mile long. It was huge, but he was great. I didn't get to meet him because his meet and greet line was so long, but just being able to hang out backstage with like him and his crew, seeing how he treated everybody was really cool. Got to meet Charlie Daniels, open for him once. That was really cool. He was just one of the nicest guys I've ever dealt with. He got there, you know, probably an hour before going on stage. He had gone to the hotel to clean up, get dressed, and he shows up. We're walking off stage. Me and the band are sitting there talking like, oh man, that was a fun gig, you know, like that was a fun set. Can't wait to, you know, hear Charlie and his band's up there tuning everything up. We hear this voice from behind us goes, well, y'all have fun. And it was Charlie. And he was standing right there behind us. And he just stood there and talked to us for a while. And really nice guy. You know, at the time he was probably, you know, mid-70s, early to mid-70s. And he was kind of, you know, not struggling, but like you could tell he was moving a little bit slower. He made his way up the stairs and he's like, I'm gonna go see if I can have a little bit of fun too. And then he gets up there and he is just tearing that fiddle apart. I mean, just really, really cool to have that experience under my belt too.
Yeah. And what, Travis Tritt, did you perform in front of him?
Yeah, I opened for Travis Tritt as well. That was really cool set too. I've done Trace Adkins. Oh yeah, Arkansas guy that I love, Joe Nichols. I've opened for him 3 times. He's a big Arkansas guy. He's got like 10 or 12 number ones. That was really cool to be able. Actually got to open for him at the Arkansas State Fair one year. That was really cool. I've been able to open for a lot of awesome people, and it's just been a big blessing to me.
So what do you want? I mean, you're going to start touring worldwide now? Is that going to happen?
I mean, right now we're just trying to we're trying to stay as busy as we can for 2023. You know, I'm not signed to a label. I'm an independent artist, so I do everything in-house, but we stayed pretty busy last year. We played a lot of big shows, played 2 huge shows in September. And like I told you, I had all those tailgates lined up. Then they all got canceled in the fall. So I was very disappointed. Yeah, I was really looking forward to those.
We were going to go.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, 2023 continues to fill up like it's looking like it's going to do, and we'll stay busy. You know, I got the Chiefs song out, so that'll hopefully lead to some more opportunities up in the KC area. I got to do the Chiefs Draft Fest in Arrowhead Stadium back in April. Got to do the training camp Red Rally in St. Joe back in July as well. So
you know an awful lot. You must be on fan. You must do fantasy football, right?
Oh yeah, I'm in way too many leagues.
Yeah, I figured that. You and John were just talking sitting there going, really? But I you know, weirdly enough, I worked at ESPN, but I've never done it. Other people have asked me to help them with theirs because I know the players so well, but I've never done it myself. But I know it's a lot of fun and frustrating at the same time.
It can definitely be frustrating for sure, especially because, you know, like one league that I'm in, my team finished, you know, 3-10, like near the bottom of the league. But when you look at but when you look at how many points I scored, I could be like 4th or 5th. It just depends on how the matchup falls. So that makes it fun. You get to know players on the other teams because, you know, if I go into a draft and I like to pick Chiefs players, you know, I like to get Mahomes and Kelsey and all these guys, but everybody else that's with me knows that. So if they got the pick before me and Travis Kelsey's coming up on the list, they'll take him before me just to kind of get under my skin a little bit. So, you know, you end up with so many different teams. Like I have Mahomes on one team this year. but couldn't get him in another league. So I wound up with Josh Allen. And then, another league where I ended up with like Trevor Lawrence and Geno Smith. So it's like you end up tracking these other guys that you normally wouldn't follow. So that's what kind of makes it interesting to me. You start learning these guys that are maybe the number 2 or 3 receiver on their team. But you really start kind of learning those guys and, seeing where they are. And it makes, if the Chiefs play in the afternoon on a Sunday, well, all of a sudden I'm watching noon games like it's my religion, because I'm trying to catch, who's playing what game and who's scoring me points,
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I have a friend, and talk about religion. He's a Miami fan. And when the Chiefs or when Miami beat the Bills, he just lost his mind. Like, he drinks a lot, on Sunday. We're all sitting there watching the game. And he's like, Tua, oh, bring the Chiefs down here. We're going to kill them. Bring Buffalo. I go, I hate to tell you this, but you're not going to have a good enough record. You're going to have to go to their place. And I told him, I go, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And I haven't been able to teach him this lesson all year. I go, but when I was 14, I used to, my brother was a big shot in high school. And when I got to high school, all the coaches knew him and they knew me. So on my lunch break, I would go in and be the runner. I would go get their food and we'd just sit there and talk football or sports, whatever sport it happened to be. So playoffs come, and, at the time, I'm like, Terry Bradshaw and those guys were still playing. I was little. And I knew they were great, but my Bills got in it. Back then, I liked them. And I still kind of like them. They're still my number 2, Kansas City. I never gave up on either one. So I go, yeah, the Bills are going to beat Pittsburgh. And they went, no. Right? And they go, no, because Pittsburgh's won Super Bowls and the Bills have done nothing. And O.J. Simpson was actually the running back at the time. And I'm just like, no. And then they got killed. And I realized no matter how bad I wanted them to win, they just weren't going to win. And I started realizing you have to see things for what they are, not the way you root. And I wanted to teach my friend this because he's just a rooter, and thinks, oh, we're elite now, we're great. And I go, you got lucky you beat Josh Allen. He fumbled the ball on the goal line and he threw a one-hop pass. And I go, and you're never going to beat the Chiefs, because I go, both those teams are going to be at the very worst 13-4, probably 14-3 if I had to guess. And you're going to be like 9-8. Guess who's going to be 14-3 and who's going to be 9-8? And guess who's pretty much out of it? It took me all year to teach him the lesson that I learned when I was 14 years old.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And still, he texts me the other day, he goes, you sure that you don't got the concussion instead of Tua? I go, no. He still will not admit it. So, but sometimes you just have to realize that as much as a fan you are, you got to look at it objectively and put that feeling away.
Well, and that's what I try and do. That's what I try and do when I watch the Chiefs, and that's kind of how I've been this year. That's why, I'm worried about the Bengals and the Bills, because we've turned the ball so much.
About the Bills, not the Bengals.
We've lost to them 3 times in 2022. So until we beat them, it's still going to be a worry to me. So I think we're the better team, sure, but at the same time, we've lost the last 3 to them. So you got to step up and win one of them. But seeing how we throughout the season have turned the ball over, whether it be fumbles or Mahomes throwing occasional interceptions and things like that, even though the season he's had, you see those things and you go, these are things that you make one of those weird mistakes in a playoff game that something weird happens, and all of a sudden that's the game. So you got to see things objectively, even though I think the Chiefs could and should win every game and should go to the Super Bowl and win. That's not how football works all the time. A lot of times it's just one weird play.
You know what else helped me to realize you can't just root? When I was a teenager, my brother worked in the NBA for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I met the players, a lot of them, even back long before the Jack Haley thing. And I realized they're people, and we worry about it more than not that they don't worry about it and want to win, but they take it in stride. Because
right.
You know what I'm saying? Okay, well, we lost. We're going to go have a nice dinner now, or something like that. And I realized that, yeah, you can be a fan, but at the same time, they're people, and you got to be. And I just, I've been around stars and big people, big names forever. So I understand it. and a lot of fans don't.
Well, and for them, yeah, they are completely invested in it. It's their job, but at the same time, they have to do it again a few days later. Whether it's the NFL or the NBA, they can't dwell on that for the next 3 or 4 days because then they won't be prepared for the next game. They have to be able to put it aside, go have their dinner. You watch the film on it, and once that's over, you move on. You learn from it and you move on. And that's how they have to be. We don't do that because we go back to our normal lives and we're not spending the whole week prepping for the next thing and learning from the previous games. So we're sitting there and we're just dwelling on it for the next week,
No, right. And there was a movie out, I guess it was Drew Barrymore was in it, and Jimmy Fallon. It was Fever Pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one scene, I thought was hysterical. The Red Sox just got blasted by the Yankees. And they're all Red Sox fans, Jimmy and his friends. And they all go to eat. And who's sitting there but Varitek? And all the Red Sox, they're having a good time. Let's get a steak. Let's get this. And they're sitting there going, look at those guys. They're having a good time. They don't care. We're dying here, and they're having a good time. And I just thought that's how fans are. And that's how
and he makes a good comment in that scene, too. He's like, why shouldn't they? Like, why shouldn't they be able to go out and have a normal meal and, relax after a game and try and get over it and stuff like that? So
right. And to me, it was just like, hey, you know what? I've seen this picture before.
Yep.
Because I've had dinner at their house before. I've had dinner at restaurants with them before. I've actually flown on the team plane before when I was a kid. So I get it. And the fans don't. They don't. So, and I got to teach them. At first, they don't listen to you, they yell. And then when you just sit them down and you go, wait a minute, what do you think about this? And then they start thinking. They're like, oh, maybe, But I'll tell you what, you're really good because you do that the whole scene in every line.
I'm a movie guy, and unfortunately, movie lines get stuck in my head, so I can quote way too much.
Well, that's why they do it, to get it. It's like a commercial. The jingle's who's gonna remember the jingle. So
that's right.
Right. I've been in 4 movies, actually, believe it or not.
Really?
Yes. I was in Men in Black 3. I met Will Smith. I was in The Interpreter with Nicole Kidman. I was UN Diplomat. I played one from Portugal. I was in Just Right. And that was interesting with Queen Latifah, because in between scenes, we shot baskets together at the Meadowlands where I did all that stuff years before with the players. Yeah. And because she dated a Nets player in that movie. Yeah. And then the other one was New Year's Eve. I got to watch the ball drop during the scene.
Awesome.
I never watched it in real life. I did it in a scene, which I thought was interesting in New York. But and I'm supposed to be in the 5th one because Nigel McGill came on this show, and he's setting me up for a 5th one because he made White Man Can't Jump. He created and Space Jam. He was Jordan's double in the first movie. He wants to bring all those actors on. He wants to bring Michael on. So
that's awesome.
Great show. Yeah. What I need you to do is to tell all the people you know to watch my show. Come on.
Well, that's definitely what we'll do. As soon as this link goes up, we'll post it on all our socials, get people watching.
Yes. Talk to all the guys you work with, the big names. We need to get it pushed. I mean, so what are you doing on that Raider weekend that you're not going to go with me?
As much as I'd love to, no, there's a big convention in my hometown in Arkansas that's for all of the Arkansas fairs and festivals and stuff like that. So I'm going to go there and, hopefully perform a little bit and then be able to, book some of the fairs and festivals for this coming year in 2024. There's not a lot of music and not a lot of festivals and stuff and shows going on in January because it's so cold and a lot of venues are inside, outside. So you got to go do what you can to try and book some shows later in the year and the years after. So even though I may not be performing, business goes on. So,
are you going to come perform up my way?
Perform where?
Up in my area,
New Jersey area.
I would love to, especially if there's some country festivals and stuff like that up there. Would love to figure out what's going on up there.
I'll tell you what, there's some pretty big fan base in the country singing. You're from Arkansas, right?
I grew up in Arkansas. Yep.
I love Glenn Campbell. He's from Delight, I believe.
He is.
Yeah, or he was. Yeah.
Yep. And not too far from Hot Springs. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Because I know Johnny Carson used to make fun of him all the time. Saturday night in Delight, there's nothing to do. No, but I loved his stuff. And I love John Denver too. And my brother got to meet him one time. He did. John was great. His songs, everybody knows Country Roads, but he had a lot of others.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I know, and you know what I like about it? And I've seen John talk about this, and I remember being little because I love music. You don't get it. I want to play one night drums for you because I can play drums actually. And my brother, he's even greater, he's better. He was going to be signed, my brother, and the lead singer just walked off, just when they were ready to be signed by a major label.
Wow.
And start touring, which was terrible.
You'd be surprised how often that happens.
Yeah, my brother's still mad about it. He talks about it every once in a while. But yeah, like the simplicity of the writing, I like, because they could write a song in 10 minutes and it would be a #1 hit.
Right.
And I know, John, you wrote a song for your wife. Well, John he wrote 2 for his wife. One was Annie's song.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote it. He was literally on a ski lift on a little scrap paper. He wrote it in 10 minutes. And the other one was leaving on a jet plane. People don't know he wrote that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And but I do. And I think that because I was a singer when I was a kid. I loved to sing. And not so much now because my voice is shot from my sinuses. But I did sing and I was pretty good at it. If I do think so myself. But I loved to do it. It was my whole life, even before sports. And so I love the simplicity of writing because, I mean, the Carpenters, who I'm sure you know who they are.
Oh yeah.
Karen and Rich. She had such an amazing voice, and she was not the lead singer in the beginning. She was the drummer. And
Right.
one night there was no way to sing. They go out and sing. She goes, I can't, but she did. And I believe that when you touch the heart of another person, and you can relate it, they can relate it to something in their life. That's what makes a great hit. And what you'll never forget.
Yeah, that's exactly what any type of writing, especially songwriting, is. When we go out and write songs, I spend time writing songs either by myself or with other co-writers. We have to write something that people can relate to, whether it's a party drinking song or it's something that's personal or heartbreaking. You have to tell a story that's personal. That might be personal to you, but it also has to be able to connect with the person listening to it. And that's the stuff that people remember the most, that stick with them.
Right. I mean, and yeah, I mean, because like I said, I mean, I'm a Beatle fan, but I know everything about other groups and songs. And I used to listen to the history of rock and roll and country music when I was a kid. And my parents were like, turn it off and do your homework. Okay, Mom. Okay, Dad. But I can still hear him yelling at me, actually. But, and I would just learn everything about all of it. And I loved, my mom always said, you must have a crush on a girl. You'll listen to a lot of music this week. I'm like, shut up, Mom. but you're wrong. But anyway, it's something that it's a love of mine. It really is. I mean, and I your songs are awesome, and we want to, you know what? If we can help you in any way, we will. We absolutely will.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys, chatting music and sports with me today. Like, they're the two things that I love most talking about and, doing in the world are, music and sports. So this is awesome.
John, actually, this is his first show. My friend Rob, who, has done the other shows, he's been pretty busy. He's building a house and all that. And we haven't done a show in quite a long time, actually. It was really rolling for a while. And he goes, Bob, it's actually on his Zoom, and then we're going to put it on YouTube. And he set the whole thing up. So thanks, Rob. And, we're going to get him back. We've had a lot of people we've interviewed. I've interviewed Jamal Wilkes with the old Lakers, Mike Scioscia, the old manager for the Angels. Yes, you love Mike. I know you do, John, being a Yankee fan. We want to have Joe Torre on. He did say something about he would come on. He told my brother and we're friends. And hopefully we'll get Derek Jeter on and those guys. But we've had a lot of stars so far. And everybody that we've had on went back to my brother and went, best show we ever did. And that's what we're trying to do. Because, when I worked at ESPN, they like sticking you and yelling at each other. That's all they do. And I don't want to do that. I mean, you could have done the worst thing in the world 2 years ago, and I could care less. I mean, we're here to have fun and to talk to people, and because everybody has a story, and I want to hear it.
Yeah,
And
that's
I want the
awesome.
world to hear it.
That's
And
awesome. It's a
you know
good
what I
way
mean?
to do
Yeah, and people have tried to tell me to change up and say, "Oh, that's not going to work." I go, nobody thought yelling at each other on the radio was going to work at one time. As a matter of fact, Mike and the Mad Dog didn't think it in New York. They thought it was going to bomb, like be out one day and be off the next day. But it worked. You only need one match to light the forest on fire. So we're just trying to do the right thing and get it to catch.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
I do indeed.
Yeah. Well, okay, so what do you have planned? In the new year, you said you're gonna do more shows?
Yeah, we're starting to fill up our calendar for the year. So we're hoping that things keep filling up. You can follow my calendar on my website, blanehoward.com. But yeah, we're hoping to stay busy. We have things that are already like in negotiations. We don't have any things that are like officially on the calendar, but they'll be on there soon. And like last year, we stayed pretty busy through the summer and fall. I'm from Arkansas. I've got family in Texas. So I've got big followings there, and we do Oklahoma and obviously Kansas and Missouri because of the Chiefs connection and stuff like that. So hoping that, football season comes around next year too. We'll be doing a lot more Chiefs stuff up there in the KC area too. So we're going to stay as busy as
the
we
road
can.
tailgate next year, right?
I would love to, man. If you know anybody that's tailgating and wants some live music, we'll be there.
Oh, I will do. You know what? Like I said, I'll talk to the trainer for the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll see what we can do, and I will. My brother knows people with the Giants and the Dolphins and stuff like that. So, we'll try to work that out.
That all sounds great to me.
Well, thank you for coming on.
No problem.
You're just an amazing guy, and I love talking. I love talking on the phone last week. It was great.
Well, I appreciate calling, and I'm sorry the other day when you called, I was driving back from our Christmas vacation, so I'm sorry I couldn't answer when you called, but I appreciate you guys having me on today.
We love you. We love the fact you came on, and I figured that. I mean, one day you were like, "I'm co-writing." I'm like, "Oh,"
I was, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Right before I left for Christmas, I had 4 Christmas shows. I had, I think I had, if not every day, every other day, I had some type of co-write going on. And then starting back, next week, I'm getting right back to it on a full schedule of writing too. So trying to get back in the studio and record new music. So I got to have new songs to record.
Hey, if I come see you, you're gonna give me a backstage pass?
Sure thing. No problem.
There you go. And if you can anything with Alan Jackson, if you can find anybody, because my brother would really like to raise awareness for it. If you can do it, that would be appreciated. Really appreciated.
Absolutely. If I get some connection there, I'd love to do that.
Thank you very much. And well, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Look forward to it and can't wait to share it with all my fans as well.
Oh, thank you. And you're going to come back on the show, right?
Of course, anytime.
Let's bring him back on with Mahomes and Kelsey.
Yeah, we'll try to get a big day. We'll bring them
Hey,
on.
if the Chiefs make a playoff run, I'll be back.
Yeah, you're darn right. And hey, listen, if you go to, let me know what game you're going to go to, and I'll try to get down to Kansas City.
Sounds good. I'll let you know.
Yes. Blane, thank you for everything. You're the best.
Bob, John, thank y'all so much. Y'all have a good one.
Great to meet you. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.